going to learn the basics of Vedic astrology, in Sanskritam known as jyotisha. I am hoping by the end of this video, the audience will be able to interpret a chart, basically, based on the signs, houses, and planets. So, let's begin. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so by hitting the lotus icon on the bottom right of the screen for more videos on Indian philosophy, psychology, Sanskrit, and Vedic astrology. Now, after inputting your birth information, your birth time, your birthplace, and your birthday into a reliable website, right, it's going to calculate a birth chart. Now, KRS, right, Kapil in the KRS channel, I like when he says that your birth chart is when you take a snapshot of the sky at the exact moment you were born. So if someone were to take a snapshot of the sky at the exact moment you were born, that is exactly where the planets are in the certain constellations that are there, right? So the planets will be in a certain constellation and in a certain house. That's exactly how it will be dispersed in your chart at the exact moment when you're born if you're able to take a snapshot of it. So it's pretty intelligent saying something like that. In the Vedic chart, there will always be 12 houses, okay? The houses are always going to be fixed. Now, when you move into a neighborhood, right, there are a bunch of houses, right? And when people move out of the neighborhood, the houses are still there, right? Typically speaking. When people move out of the neighborhood, they don't pick up the house and then take it away, right? The house stays, but different people move into the house and leave the house, right? So people don't pick up the houses are fixed. You'll know that, if you grew up in a certain home during your childhood, right? And then later on when you move somewhere else, you come back and you see that home again, people are going to be living in it, but that house is still there, right? So houses are fixed. So when looking at a chart here, this will be the first house right here. This will be the second house. This will be the third house, the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th. This will always be like this, okay? Now, you may ask, why did you just count the houses when the numbers are right there? These numbers don't represent the house numbers. These numbers right here represent the number that symbolizes or denotes, right, the sign, the zodiac sign. So we'll go over this. 1 means Aries or Mesha. 2 means Taurus or Vrishabha, right? 3 is Gemini, Mithuna. So when you're trying to look for a house, don't look at any of these numbers. It has nothing to do with the numbers, okay? The numbers denote or signify the sign, the zodiac sign, okay? The houses remain fixed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It will always be like that, okay? And this will always be the first house known as the ascendant, okay? The ascendant is what the constellation that was rising in the eastern horizon, okay? So the ascendant will always be here. And this is the descendant, okay? So 4th house and 10th house. So houses have specific categories here, okay? So the first house will represent the body, general disposition, the lifespan, right? The general personality, right? Second house will represent immediate family, finances, speech, right? 4th house will represent the mother, the home. 10th house will represent the career, right? Public image, public life. 7th house will represent the spouse, the partner, okay? So what's happening here is certain houses are in certain areas, and these certain houses, they discuss certain topics, okay? Each of the houses will discuss different topics. And many of these topics that are being discussed are mentioned in earlier scriptures or earlier Shastra. The earlier scriptures such as the Bruhat Parashara Hora Shastra, the Phaladipika, Saravali, Uttara Kalamruta, many Vedic astrological texts, right? They discuss what the houses mean, what the signs mean, what the planets mean. So this is not just coming out of nowhere, right? This is not just modern astrologers and modern people talking about this, right? This is something that has been there for a long time, since probably 500 BCE or earlier, right? So this will always be the houses here, okay? Next, let's understand the signs, okay? Now, as I said, these numbers represent the signs. The first one, Aries, right? Mesha, Aries, happens to be occupying the first house. So when you look at the first house, you ask, what sign occupies the first house? You look at the number and you see 1. 1 means Aries, okay? So let's go through this. 1 is Aries, Mesha. 2 is Taurus, Vrushabha, right? 3 is Gemini, Mithuna. 4 is Cancer, Karka. 5 is Leo, Simha. 6 is Virgo, Kanya. 7 is Libra, Tula. 8 is Scorpio, Vrishchika. 9 is Sagittarius, Dhanu. 10 is Capricorn, Makara. 11 is Aquarius, Kumbha. And 12 is Pisces, Meena, right? These numbers will always be associated with these signs no matter what. So when you see 12, you know Pisces, Meena. When you see 6, you know Virgo, Kanya, right? It will always be like this. So whenever you see these numbers here, understand that they will be the sign placement, okay? The sign. The house will always remain the same. So in this case, it happens to go, the houses happen to go along with the signs, or the signs happen to go along with the houses. The first house is occupied by Aries, Mesha. The 7th house is occupied by Libra, Tula. The 10th house is occupied by Capricorn, Makara. And there's a reason for this. These are the original meanings here, right? So the 6th house for Virgo will always, typically have to do with daily routine, right? Things that you do on a daily basis, consistently, etc. Capricorn tends to be very work and status oriented, right? So the 10th house has to do with Capricorn. 8th house, Scorpio, hidden secrets, the occult, mysticism. So it will be like that. 9th house, Sagittarius, higher philosophy, wisdom, religion. These are the original kind of significators of the houses. So it will stay like that, okay? Now we know that the houses will always stay where they are, okay? But the signs, they change, okay? The constellations, they will change. So the first house is not always going to be occupied by Aries. Now, if you want to say a Sagittarius ascendant, right? If you remember, Sagittarius, Dhanu is 9. So what you'll do here is you'll put 9 here, then 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So now this individual, right? This individual chart is a Sagittarius ascendant. So you'll put 9 here. The first house is occupied by Sagittarius. The 7th house is occupied by Gemini. The 10th house is occupied by Virgo. And the 4th house is occupied by Pisces, right? Because the numbers signify the certain signs. So the houses will be static, right? The signs will be dynamic. They'll change. Now, again, in Shastra and in the scriptures, the signs have certain meanings, right? Virgo, right, will be critical, analytical, right? Detail-oriented, okay? Pisces, more imaginative, right? Then you'll see Scorpio, more mysterious, right? Kind of keeping things to themselves, protective of their emotions in a certain way. Cancerian, very sentimental, emotional, also very protective. It'll be a water sign, just like Scorpio, water sign. Sagittarius, fun-loving, adventurous, wise, also here, fire sign, etc. The signs have certain personalities, certain characteristics. This is also mentioned in the Shastra, in the scriptures. So you'll have to refer to these scriptures to understand the real meanings of these signs as well as the houses, okay? Now there's 9 planetary deities, devas. We call them deities because the planets actually have personalities, okay? So Jupiter has a personality, Bruhaspati, right? He's constantly doing rituals. He's constantly doing his dharma. He's keeping the order of the universe, etc. The sun, Surya, has a personality. Mangala, fierce. Mars has a personality, etc. So let's go over the 9 planets. First, we have the sun, Surya. Second, we have the moon, Chandra. Third, we have Mars, Mangala. Fourth, we have Mercury, Buddha. Fifth, we have Jupiter, Guru. Sixth, we have Venus, Shukra. Seventh, we have Saturn, Shani. Eighth, we have Rahu, which is Rahu, the north node of the moon. And ninth, we have Ketu, which is Ketu, the south node of the moon. These are the 9 planetary deities, right? And they will be placed or dispersed throughout the chart based on I have dispersed the planets in different areas in this particular case. So this individual was born at a particular time, right? And at that particular time, this is where the planets were in the chart. Now, let's learn to use the language here, okay? What is the ascendant? The ascendant is Sagittarius, 9, Dhanu, right? What is the descendant? What is the 7th house? The 7th house is Gemini, Mithuna, right? Now, how do we say this in terms of planets, right? So, where is Mercury? Mercury is in the 1st house in Sagittarius, right? Where is the moon? Moon is in the 10th house in Virgo. Or you can say the sign first. Moon is in Virgo in the 10th house, right? Where is Mars? Mars is in the 9th house in Leo, right? This is the type of language that we're going to use. So the houses stay static, but the signs and the planets move, okay? So imagine that you're in a neighborhood, again, that the houses are static, they remain in the neighborhood, they don't move. The people are like planets, right? They move in and they move out. When people move in, right, they bring a certain sort of energy or an aura to them. That energy or aura could represent the sign, right? So when Mars moves in, it could represent a Scorpio or an Aries type of energy. We'll learn that certain planets rule certain signs, okay? And certain signs are ruled by certain planets. So let's imagine that analogy for that time, you know? That the houses remain static and the planets enter and leave. And when the planets enter and leave, they bring this sort of energetic sign-like nature to them, okay? So again, Mercury is in the 1st house in Sagittarius, Sun is in the 2nd house in Capricorn, right? Then gradually we'll start to understand and put it together. The sign, the house, and the planet, right? Okay, Moon is in the 10th house in Virgo, okay? Moon represents the emotional nature of the person. The 10th house represents the career and the public image. And it's ruled by Virgo, okay? So the career, public image has to do something with detail-oriented, critical, analytical nature, right? In the moon, the person's mind is going to be detailed, analytical, critical, but it's going to be directed towards their career. So their emotions are very dependent upon their career, how their career is, or they'll see the world in terms of career emotionally, right? Put it together very basically, and then you go into it in a certain detailed way, right? So you do that step by step here. And then you'll know, okay, Saturn is in the 7th house. This person could have a delayed marriage, right? Because Saturn represents delay, but often guarantees people things, and many, many different interpretations. You can't look at one placement. You have to look at the whole chart, the aspects, the degrees, and every single house has its own chart. So for now, all I want us to do is to understand the 3 fundamental components when coming across a chart, right? Trying to identify the houses, the signs, and the planets. When putting these 3 together, you can slowly start to use the language that astrologers use to understand these particular charts, okay? So what is the ascendant? What is the descendant? What is the 4th house? What is the 5th house, right? Knowing where they are and what sign occupies that house, right? What sign occupies the 10th house? Boom, Virgo is in the 10th house, right? Okay, what planet occupies what sign and occupies what house? Moon occupies Virgo, the sign, and occupies the 10th house, and on, and trying to understand this slowly by slowly. Please do subscribe by hitting the lotus icon on the bottom right of the screen for more videos on these topics.